thing was right. Everybody, they sit back there. By the way, I just want y'all to know something. Yesterday we came to church and we moved the front and the second row to the back row. So technically, all y'all are sitting on the front row. Don't worry, you're on the second row. It's okay. I just wanted y'all to know that. I'm going to take this jacket off. I like wearing a three-piece. That way I can take the jacket off and I still got something on and I still look halfway professional. It's hot up here. Y'all are going to like this title to this message. Y'all are going to feel that it's fitting that I'm teaching this with this title. How to be a fool. Yeah, I knew that would get y'all. Now, I've got some props. Y'all know me, I love props. I love to have some kind of prop that gets people's attention. When I get to the area where I got the props, I'm going to have Brother Chad come up here. Long story short, I borrowed these from a member of the Gilardi family. They're from Sicily. One of the members was generous enough to say, yes, you can borrow this, but we need you to have one big guy standing next to it and to walk you to your car afterwards because this is very expensive. So, y'all just pray I don't get mugged when I go in the parking lot or when I get home. I was scared driving all the way down here. That's why it's been covered. We're going to talk about something very simple. Brother Aaron, you like to put me on the spot all the time. You like to ask me questions because you know I'm not a very smart man. What is this? Without Google. No. What is it, Pastor?
I say it's a compass.
No. Part-time, I like to work on bicycles. On a bicycle that has gears, there's a thing called a derailleur. The derailleur mounts to a thing called a hanger. The hanger is designed to bend or break so that your frame doesn't, so your bike isn't ruined. This is a hanger aligner to make sure it's straight and it's aligned. All the same. This is a tool. When it's used properly, it's efficient. When somebody takes care of it, it lasts forever. And it stays shiny. We're going to talk about a tool today. We're going to talk about a tool that everybody loves to talk about. We're going to talk about a subject everybody loves to hear about. Well, what's that got to do with being a fool? Now, I didn't have it in me to go out and buy the Park tool and spend 3 times the money as this when I bought an off-brand. But this still costs money. How long do you think this is going to last for use as a pry bar? How long do you think it's going to last to use as a hammer? It's not going to last long. The tool that we're going to talk about today can last forever. Or not. It's all on how you use it. Pastor knows what I'm going to be preaching on, so he's looking at me like, what does this have to do with anything? Everybody open up your Bibles to Luke chapter 12. We're going to start with verse 13. We're going to read down to 21. And one of the company said unto him, Master, speak to my brother, that he may divide the inheritance with me. And he said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or divider over you? And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consists not of the abundance of the things he possesses. And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said this, I will do. I will pull down my barns, and I will build greater. And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, So thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thy ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall these things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasures for himself, and is not rich towards God. Now, I guess y'all understand we're going to speak on money a little bit. See, we've got a scale on sin. Everybody, we all do. It's human nature. There's these little bitty sins. Lying. Anybody fish? Cast out, catch fish. Really? Not a single person in here fishes? See, that's normally how you find out who lies. There's never been a person honest about the fish they caught. But there's little bitty sins. It's a little white lie. It's okay. Or gossip's not that bad. I'm just trying to tell them what this person said. There's little bitty small things. And then, of course, we have the great big sins where we read the papers like, somebody was murdered. We've got that. And then in between, we got the forgotten sins. Mainly because sometimes we fall guilty of them. And I feel covetousness, been coveting. I think that's one of them. I'm guilty of it. Matter of fact, I spent the better part of 2 years recovering from it. Yes, I'm a recovering covenant addict. This is a small sin that people overlook, but it can have serious consequences to it. See, this man right here, Jesus has been talking to everybody, and the only thing he's thinking about, and he finally gets a chance, he walks up and he asks him, hey, my brother, he inherited this stuff, and I want some of it. Because back in them days, they had the law. The oldest son got the most, and then it was divided up amongst the other kids. He wanted it. And that was his main thought was, I want this. I want it. And he comes up to Jesus, and I know it's kind of weird when you read it, and he says unto him, man, who made me a judge or divider over you? Now, a lot of these people, they hear Jesus talk, they hear him preach, and they think, he's a good teacher. Nicodemus called him rabbi. Some say, oh, yeah, he's a prophet. He's a prophet of God because no one can do what he does unless God be with them. But Jesus is like, who made me a divider over this? And the reason why he's saying this is because God's law says what's going to happen. God's law says your brother gets this, and then it's divided. So he's looking for somebody to overstep God's law and to say, side with me, give me what I want. Now, of course, I know I'm the only person who's sitting in this room that's ever coveted anything. I mean, if I went out and bought a 2020 Corvette for $105,000, yes, they cost that much because I don't want the base package. Because if you're going to bear hunt, you might as well kill a grizzly. Get the higher up one. Of course, I got to get more than the $85,000 one because I got a buddy that's got one of them. True story. I got a buddy that's got one of them. So I need the $105,000 Corvette. Anybody want to take a gander what the price of the per month of that's going to be? For 5 years. Oh, wait, sorry, 7 years. $1,900 and something a month. For something. For an object. See, the thing about covetousness is this can lead down to several paths. And we have records of where this leads. You can see in this passage, God gives a parable and he shows this guy in this parable the way he's acting. In 3 verses, the guy in the parable refers to himself 11 times that I counted. He's coveting something. All he's thinking about is himself, and he's puffed up in pride, and that's self-centered. But see, what people don't understand is when you get into this coveted state, whenever you see something, And it starts off as harmless, like, I like Derek's shoes. I'd like to have a pair like that. It starts off something small. And then the next thing you know, well, Aaron's got that nice car out there. I want that. Pastor's, out of Pastor and Jonathan, he's the only smart man. He drives a Ford. Sorry. I've seen the thing about lifted trucks. But anyways, it always starts off small. But Aaron showed me once, when we were talking about this problem I had, he showed me a verse. How many people want to sign up to be a slave? Anybody? I mean, I hear being a slave's not bad, except for the hours are terrible and the pay's horrible. Other than that, we seen the Israelites, they got freed from being slaves, and they thought, oh, we're going to die. At least back when we were in slavery, we had food. They forgot about getting beat. There's a verse. Aaron, he's smiling. He knows where I'm going. Proverbs 22:7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. His servant. Me and my wife's been married. Okay, me and my wife's been together 18 years. So I think 16 years we've been married, right? Okay, close. This may be 16 years. We've been married. For the past 16 years, this right here. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is the servant to the lender. For the past 16 years, well, I'm going to say 14 because I'm in rehab over it. Past 14 years, this is what we've been doing. Them people that live down the road, the Joneses, we've been trying to keep up with them. Without even knowing, we've been coveting them. They've got the new car. They got the nice house. They got the new this. They got the nice clothes. That's what we've been doing. We've been coveting. We've been watching them and we've been seeing them and we've been thinking to ourselves, I want that, I want that, I want that. So the only thing that we can do is we can go out and we can spend a bunch of money that we don't have. I was astonished when they said the average American has, $16,000 in credit card debt? For once in my life, I was above average. What was it, 30-something thousand in credit card, 33,000 in credit card debt? Covetousness. That's what it will do. I was a servant. I was a slave. Oh, well, Joey, you have to work. You got to work. I know I got to work. But a lot of days I've went to work when I shouldn't have went to work. This arm right here swelled up. Just huge. Worked 4 days. Knew if I could finish that house, it would give me enough money and I wouldn't have to work on that Friday. I could get 3 days maybe to recover. Why? Because I had bills to pay. The church had offerings, special offerings, and I couldn't give that much. Why? Because I had bills to pay. Covetousness. It turns you into a slave. That's all you do is you work, you work, you work. And of course with credit cards, you pay the minimal monthly payment and you pay for the rest of your natural born life. You don't leave a will, you leave a want. If I'd have kept the path I was going when I died, instead of my kids getting something, they were going to not be fighting over going up to somebody saying, split this inheritance. They're going to be going, give the debt to them. They weren't going to be like this young man. Yeah, Candace, she's happy. She's like, because I know it's going to fall on me. You see? That's exactly what was going to happen. They were going to fight over it. Give it to Rogue. Give it to Rogue. People turn themselves into a slave. It makes them self-centered. This whole time in this parable, Because, I mean, what he's doing is he's taking, and he's explaining, because most of the time we don't want to admit when we're foolish or we're an idiot. We don't. We're kind of like King David. Do you remember whenever Nathan, the prophet, came up to him and told him the story about the man with the goat? And, you know, he loved it like a kid. It ate at his table. And then all of a sudden, this one man who had plenty, he took the goat, he killed it, served it up to his friend. David got mad. He said, that man's going to die. And then, of course, the prophet looked at him. Because if he'd have said, hey, there was, you know, you did this was bad, you stole this woman, then you murdered her husband, he'd be like, well, because we do that. But when we hear it in a parable and we think it's somebody else, we're quick to point out, they messed up. Nathan said, you were the man. And David's like, oh, I've sinned. There's always been people who's had needs all through history. I don't care what the communist people are going to tell you. You're never going to eliminate poor people. There's always going to be rich people, poor people. Hopefully they'll stay a middle class. If there's capitalism, they'll stay a middle class. If we slide towards communism, it's poverty and the ruling class. This man didn't once think, well, the family down the road who's starving, who needs something, I will give some of my food to them. He didn't sit there and think, I can sell some of these goods and I can give them to the temple. He didn't think of the needs of other people. And that's what we have to watch out when we covet. We start to not thinking about other people, we just think of ourselves. And I mean, it can happen to anybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care how rich you are. I got it marked. You could be a king. I know we mentioned David. In 1 Kings 21, Ahab, he's a king. Kings got money. I mean, they eat the best stuff. They live in palaces. They have all sorts of stuff. He's got a neighbor. He sees the vineyard that this guy's got. He walks up and he says, I want to buy it. I want this vineyard. I'll give you another vineyard. I want this. I want it. God says, no, it's wrong for me to sell my inheritance. No, I don't want to. He goes home and he sits and he sulks and he doesn't eat. If I can't get my way, I mean, we see a kid throw a tantrum and we think, how embarrassing is that? We need to whoop them. And yet, grown adults, we do the same thing. Well, if I don't get this, I don't have this, and I ain't, and we don't eat, and we sulk, and we're mad, and we're upset. That's the same thing this rich king did. And in this situation where somebody coveted, they wind up hiring two people to bear false witness on the vineyard owner, say he blasphemed the king and God. And that led to murder. I've seen people before covet. I mean, it's not always money, but I've seen people, they covet something. And they want it, and they will do anything to get it. I've seen marriages split up because of it. I've seen friendships lost over it. For simple sin. Most of the time, my wife gave me money today, Pastor. That was really nice of her. This is what we spend our lives chasing. It's right here. We are not something, and I'm not saying having stuff is wrong. Don't take for 1 second that I'm saying if you're rich, you're evil. If you have stuff, you're evil. If stuff has you, there's a problem. There's a difference. Okay? There's a difference between having stuff and stuff having you. When stuff has you, the only focus you have is on that stuff. You get self-centered. We see the parable. Not once does a guy mention God. So many times people will chase this. Chasing this, I need more. I can pick up more hours. I won't go to church on Wednesday. I can get double time if I do that. That's time. I can get more hours. That's time and a half. And yeah, I know I work late sometimes. I have to finish stuff up. I'm preaching to myself, y'all. Don't think I'm got somebody in mind. I'm narrowing somebody out. I'm not. I'm preaching to myself. I spent 14 years doing this. I don't want to relapse. I know what it's like to relapse, and I don't want to relapse. But we'll sit there, and it's like, I can get a second job. Now, I'm for getting second jobs, especially to pay off debt. But most of the time, every job I've ever had, I've always told them I can't work Sunday. I had a job once, and I told the boss, I said, I will work here, but I cannot work on Sunday. He says, okay, no problem. You'll never have that happen. I said, thank you. He said, we post schedules on, I think it was Monday. And so I went up there, I looked at the schedule, and Joey was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's a problem with the schedule. Oh, can you just work this one Sunday? No. Well, you got to work this Sunday. I said, nope. You got to find a replacement. He's like, this is going to cost you your job. Nope. We had an agreement. He says, you really ain't going to work it? Nope. And I have laid brick and worked on Sundays, and I have learned one important thing. If I work on Sunday, see, I got a foundation. I was supposed to work yesterday. We got rained out. Now, if I'd have worked today, it would have cost me more money to work today than I would have ever made today. Something would have happened. I'm being serious. So how do we become a fool here? I mean, this guy, it sounds like he's living it up. I mean, he's eat, drink, and be merry. No else waiting for me to slip up and say, for tomorrow we die. I mean, he's got it made. He's got so much stuff, he doesn't know what to do. So the only thing he can think about is going out and building bigger, nicer, fancier barns to store all this stuff. So thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Only concerned of himself. But God says unto him, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required. Now the Bible tells us to be a good steward of our money. So having money and having things wasn't why he was a fool. God calls him a fool because he thought that all his worldly riches and all he had would satisfy his every need, satisfy his soul. I mean, I can tell you from a person who's coveted. I mean, and one of the things y'all have heard me say I had was a gun collection. And I never got to the point where it was enough. I mean, I told y'all I had that Remington 700, and I had more money in that than I had in some vehicles I bought. And thought, this will be enough. I was like this man. So, thou art doing good. You can shoot somebody at a half a mile or something at a half a mile. Thou art doing good. And then all of a sudden, I'm watching something, and they're like, the MRAD, starting out at $9,000, shoots a mile and a half, and then my soul goes, nope. And I start thinking, what can I do? I never bought one. Praise the Lord, I never bought one, or else it would have been $40,000 in credit card debt. See, we take this little sin and we sit there and we look at it, and we're sitting there, we're trying to fill a hole, and we can't. Another reason why God thought he was a fool, he assumed he was going to live a long life. Yeah. Everything's set up. I mean, he apparently, I don't know how long it took him to build barns back then. I don't know how big the barns had to be, but he knew he was going to live long enough to build the barns. long enough to put the stuff in there. And he said he had it for many years. Now, one of these days I'll come up with a more efficient way to thumbnote everything. Psalms 27:1 says, "Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth." James tells us our life is but a vapor. Young kids, understand, it is a vapor. Right now, time's dragging by slow. Right now, everything's just like, oh man, Joey's a 36-year-old man. He is old. That's right. Old. I mean, old. And thank God that I didn't have to preach the other Sunday, or else I really would have looked old walking around like this. I'm feeling better today. But this is, time flies. Me and my wife have been together over half of her life. Half of my life we've been together. We've got a kid in high school. It flies. We have to have our priorities straight. See, because if we want to be a fool, then we need to covet. If we want to be a fool, we want to take this tool right here, which is no different than this, and use it wrong. Every bit of this goes towards the Corvette thing, and that's going to be my, I told you I'm saving up for the midlife crisis. Do the math real quick. How much this is $50. How much do I got to go till I get to the 105,000? Might as well go 106 because I want nice floor mats. Yeah, we got a long ways to go. Now, the Bible does tell us we don't have to be a fool. We don't. Matter of fact, the Bible tells us what we can do to be wise. As a matter of fact, you can, believe it or not, you can use this tool to do it. Proverbs 11, verse 30. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. Now, next month is April, and we do our mission emphasis, correct? We can do that this, okay. Now, we can take a simple tool like this. I'm not saying you can't buy yourself stuff. Once again, I'm not saying stuff is bad. I'm not saying having money is bad. I'm hoping to have money where I can actually do that thing called retire. Okay? But I'm not going to build my life around this. Okay? I want to give. We can take something like that, give to missions. Okay? Because see, the thing is we're called to go to the end of the world. The whole world. I can't go to the whole world. Even if I had the money, I'm going to have a huge barrier, and that's language. When I went to Germany before, I asked the people, "You speak English?" They said, "Yes." And then they looked at me and they said, "You speak English?" I said, "Apparently not." But we can take that money and we can give it to missionaries. And that can help them grow. That can help them reach more people. So this right here, what? I don't know how long to expect bills to last, but 10 years this is gone. Honestly, when I fill the truck up, this is gone. Thank you, people. I ain't going to say, that's all I'm going to say about that. I ain't going to run that one. But that's gone. But if I take that same amount of money and I invest it in missions, somebody gets saved. That's eternal. Okay? That is eternal. If I take that money and I invest it in the church, oh, well, there he goes. Yeah, of course he's a preacher. He's going to, we need money. took gas this morning in that van, didn't it? Okay. Has to fix the van. Takes gas, run the van. Takes electric. Them computers weren't free. The internet's not free. I mean, Aaron gave a list where we're getting the gospel out to. We're picking up kids. How many kids were saved? 4. 4 kids were saved. Now, if no one paid tithes, if no one gave the missions, they'd have foreclosed on this building, and this would probably be a thrift shop, I'm guessing. The van would never got fixed, or would have never got purchased, would have never had gas. You think them 4 kids would have got saved? So giving an offering, you had a part of that. And I'm going to show you one of the reasons why we're foolish, and I'm going to, Chad, I'm going to need you up here. You can go to wide angle if you don't mind. Okay. You do understand I said Gilardi, right? I said the Gilardi family. Okay. Yeah, they're from Sicily. Okay. They know Uncle Beppy. Anybody rushes the stage, whack them in the head. Yo, I'm serious. I had to talk to the mafia about this. The in-laws about this. I'm going to show y'all what in the world people will be so focused on that they'll let people die and go to hell. I'm going to show you what people are so focused on that they themselves will let themselves die and go to hell. Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm going to get mugged. Y'all ready? Don't worry, I'm going to hold it up where y'all can see it. First thing, clothes. By the way, money's made on blue jeans. I did not buy these with holes in them. They didn't have holes in a thrift shop. I ran into my scaffold and I ripped them. So now they're garbage. These ain't going to last a billion years, are they? They didn't last a year. I mean, I could put duct tape over it, but stuff's going to go in my boot and I can't stand that. Oh, I'm not done. Don't worry. Just going to get to a Bible verse to back up what I'm saying. Don't want this to be, well, Joey's crazy. This right here. Can anybody please identify what this is? What? No, Fluffy's a pet brick. That's rude. Anybody? It's got rock in it. I think it is. By the way, I'm going to let y'all know a fun fact. Your taxes go to paying for roads, right? Everybody know that? Okay. Apparently, in the state of Arkansas, if you break out what we call a quickie saw and try to cut up a piece of asphalt, the city doesn't like that. So don't try. This is a piece of concrete. Sorry, Miss Karen. Pick it up. This is a piece of concrete. People will die and go to hell over a piece of concrete. Anybody know what this is? 2x4. You're looking at me like, why would they do that over building material? When we stand before God, so I don't get the pulpit dirty, the pants are ruined, so I'll be out. I need you to still stay here. You're one of my props too. When we stand before God, and one day we will, because if the rapture doesn't happen, we're going to die. But we stand before God and He says, what have you done with your life? Well, I've acquired great wealth. I've got so much gold, I've got so much money. You're standing before God with this stuff right here. Well, what do you mean? And the building of the wall, this is in Revelation 21, and the building of the wall of it was as jasper, and the city was pure gold. And then, of course, it goes 21, and the 12 gates were pearls, and several gates, one was pearl. The street of the city was pure gold. What we covet, what we prize, God looks at us as building material. It's nothing. People's not robbing Fort Knox to get concrete. A billion years, that piece of concrete going to be gone. It's two before it'll be gone. It'll be burnt in a fire in the fire pit in the backyard. But there's one thing that will still be here. Chad. Chad has a soul. I know some people argue that. About as much as they argue me having a heart. Chad has a soul. And a billion years from now, he will be in one of two places. Well, he said he's saved, so we know he'll be in heaven. But everybody we meet will be in one of two places, heaven or hell. So the real treasure is seeking souls, to be wise. We can have money, we can have things, but what we need to do is use them properly. Don't hoard up money. Send some money to missionaries. You can be seated. I'll take the stick so you don't hit me. Sure. See, we have to be aware of being covetous. In the grand scheme of life, if we look at things for what they are, there's not a single person here that's willing to die, kill, or break up a marriage over the three items that I've set up here. If you are, we need to have some counseling. See, later on in the passage, Jesus tells his disciples, because I know we got to work, and I'm not preaching against work. Okay, man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. He tells his disciples, don't worry about what you're going to wear. Don't worry about what you're going to eat. Matter of fact, he says, and seek not what you shall eat or what you shall drink, neither be ye double-minded. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after. And your Father knoweth ye have needs of these things. See, when we walk around and all we're consumed with is focusing on ourselves and stuff, the lost world sees us and they don't see no difference between us and them. Well, he's focused on getting things. He's obsessed with things. I mean, if he really worships a mighty, powerful God, then why isn't his God providing for him? Why has he got to not go to church and work all the time? God has a plan for every one of us. He's got things that he wants us to do. He calls us to do. He knows we have needs. When Pastor moved down here to start this church, did you ever skip a meal? God called him here. There might have been times he wondered, but God sent him through. We're going to have things that's going to test our faith. But to sit and worry and think God's not going to provide for us is showing that we have weak faith. I just wanted to preach on covetousness today just because it's something that I've dealt with. I figured somebody else might deal with it. And I don't want us to lose focus. We're starting a new year. I don't want us to be wrapped up in getting things and worrying about things. I want us to get wrapped up worrying about going out and spreading the gospel. I want us to get wrapped up and worried about missions and sending missionaries out. That needs to be our focus. I mean, anybody wants to concrete, talk to Noelle. She's part of the Gilardi family. I actually dug this out of our driveway. Brother Aaron, would you dismiss us, please?